I woke in a hospital bed, disoriented and in pain, with bandages covering my head. A young nurse entered and gasped when she saw my eyes open. She stammered that this was impossible. I was declared dead 2 days ago. I tried to speak but could barely whisper. The nurse backed away, terrified, saying my son Derek signed the death certificate and took the body to the funeral home. Through the window, I saw it was morning. The nurse said the funeral was today, at noon, in 3 hours. My name is Michael Brennan, and I am 67 years old. What I am about to tell you still feels like a nightmare I cannot wake from. But every word is true. Weak and dizzy, I ripped out the IV line and struggled into my clothes. My hands shook so badly I could barely button my shirt. The nurse, Emma was her name, stitched on her badge, tried to stop me. She put her hand on my shoulder and begged me to lie back down. I pushed past her, my legs threatening to buckle with each step. I had no wallet, no phone, no identification. My body screamed in pain. Fractured ribs. The doctor had written on the chart I glimpsed. Concussion. Bruised organs from the car accident 3 days ago. Each breath felt like knives in my chest. I stumbled out of County Memorial Hospital into the bright Virginia morning. The parking lot stretched before me, and I flagged down a taxi that was dropping off an elderly woman. The driver, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, looked at me with concern. "I need to get to St. Paul's Lutheran Church," I said, my voice hoarse. "I will pay you double the fare." He hesitated, looking at my bandaged head and hospital gown visible under my jacket. But something in my face must have convinced him. He nodded and helped me into the back seat. During that 20-minute ride, memories flooded back in painful fragments. I remembered driving home from my construction company office 3 nights ago. The late meeting had run past 9 o'clock. I remembered the dark highway, my headlights cutting through the darkness, then a truck swerving into my lane without warning. The screech of metal, the sickening crunch of impact, the world spinning. I remembered waking briefly in an ambulance, paramedics shouting medical terms I did not understand. And then, through the haze of pain, I heard my son's voice. Derek. He was there, leaning over me. But his words made no sense. "Let him go," he said coldly. "Not save him or help him. Just let him go." Then darkness swallowed me. Now I understood. My own son let me die. No, worse than that. He wanted me to die. The taxi pulled up to St. Paul's Lutheran Church, the same church where I married my wife Catherine 36 years ago. The same church where we held her funeral 10 years back. Cars packed the parking lot. I recognized vehicles belonging to my business associates, my employees, my friends. My own company trucks, Brennan Construction painted on the sides, were parked out front. Through the heavy wooden doors, I heard organ music playing a funeral dirge. I paid the driver with the $20 bill I found in my jacket pocket, left over from before the accident. He tried to give me change, but I waved him off. My hands were shaking too badly to count coins. I was late. The service had already started. I pushed through those heavy doors, and 200 heads turned as one. Gasps echoed through the sanctuary. Some people stood, hands flying to their mouths. Others sat frozen, faces pale with shock. At the altar, beside a closed mahogany casket draped with white lilies, stood Derek, my son, 34 years old, wearing a sharp black suit that probably cost $2,000. Tears that had been streaming down his cheeks suddenly stopped. His face went from grief-stricken to ghost white in an instant. Beside him, his wife Allison clutched his arm. She wore a black dress and a veil. Her mouth fell open. I walked down the center aisle. Every eye followed me. My legs wobbled, and I grabbed the edge of a pew to steady myself. The organ music stopped abruptly. Pastor Williams stood at the podium, frozen mid-sentence in his eulogy. My voice, when it came, was hoarse but strong enough to carry through the silent church. "You are celebrating early." For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. Derek stared at me like he was seeing a ghost, which I suppose he was. Then something changed in his face. The shock melted away, replaced by something colder, harder. He did not look guilty. He did not look afraid. He looked furious. Derek turned to the crowd and shouted, his voice breaking with manufactured emotion. "This man is not my father. My father died 3 days ago in that horrible accident. This is some sick imposter, some con artist trying to steal from our family in our moment of grief." The sanctuary erupted. Half the people rushed toward me, embracing me, crying, saying my name. Old friends from 30 years back, employees from my construction company, my business partner Harold's widow Margaret, sobbing into my shoulder. But the other half hung back, uncertain, whispering to each other, looking between me and Derek with confusion and suspicion. Pastor Williams stood frozen at his podium, Bible clutched to his chest. Derek stormed down from the altar, pointing at me with a shaking finger. My father had a distinctive birthmark on his neck, right here. He pointed to his own neck, just below his left ear. "Does this man have it? Check him." I reached up to my neck, but my hand met bandages. The accident had left me wrapped like a mummy. I could not prove anything. A man stepped forward from the front pew. Gregory Walsh, Derek's lawyer, slick silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of attorney who makes a living finding loopholes. "This is highly irregular," Gregory said smoothly. "We need to verify this man's identity before we proceed." "Sir, do you have identification?" I reached for my wallet. Then I remembered. No wallet. No identification. Everything had been at the hospital, and the hospital declared me dead. My belongings were probably in some deceased patient's storage room. "I don't have my wallet," I said. My voice sounded weak even to my own ears. "It was taken after the accident." Gregory's eyebrows rose with practiced sympathy. "I see. That is unfortunate. Perhaps someone here can verify your identity through other means." "I am Michael Brennan," I said louder. "I own Brennan Construction. I have lived in Richmond for 40 years. I built half the houses in the Riverside development. I have a scar on my left knee from a table saw accident in 1992. Many people know these facts about my father," Derek interrupted. He had composed himself now, his voice steady and convincing. This man could be anyone. A former employee, someone who studied my father's life. We cannot simply take his word. Gregory reached into his briefcase and pulled out documents. Official-looking papers with stamps and seals. "I have here a death certificate, signed by Dr. Raymond Sullivan at County Memorial Hospital. Time of death was 2 days ago, 9:15 in the evening. Cause of death, traumatic brain injury, and cardiac arrest, resulting from the vehicle collision." He held it up for the crowd to see. Several people leaned in to examine it. "Furthermore," Gregory continued, pulling out another document, "I have the last will and testament of Michael Brennan, notarized and legally binding, dated 6 months ago. In it, Mr. Brennan left his entire estate to his son Derek. The construction business, valued at approximately $4 million. His home on Riverside Drive. His savings and investments. Everything." My stomach dropped. "That is a lie," I said. "I never signed any such document." But Gregory was already passing the will around to several of my business associates. I saw them examining it, nodding. The signature looked perfect. My signature. But I had never signed that paper in my life. The will I actually wrote, the real one, was stored with my old lawyer Thomas Henderson. In it, I left the bulk of my estate to charity and to an employee profit-sharing trust. Derek was to receive only $200,000. Not because I did not love him, but because he had betrayed my trust years ago. He had stolen from the company, lied to me repeatedly, and shown himself to be reckless with money. I had caught him embezzling $70,000 from Brennan Construction 4 years ago. I forgave him, paid back the clients he had cheated, and gave him one more chance. But our relationship never recovered. I could not trust him with my life's work. "Derek," I said, looking directly at my son, "why are you doing this?" His eyes met mine, and for just a moment, I saw something there. Not remorse, not guilt, triumph. "I held my father's hand as he died," Derek said, his voice catching with emotion so convincing. I almost believed it myself. I watched him take his last breath. It was the hardest moment of my life. And now this monster shows up to torment me. to steal what my father wanted me to have. My vision blurred. The room tilted. I grabbed for the pew again, but my hands found only air. My legs gave out, and I fell to my knees on the cold church floor. "Someone call an ambulance," a voice shouted. The last thing I saw before darkness took me was Derek's face. He was smiling. When I woke, I was in a different hospital room, not County Memorial, somewhere else. The walls were pale green instead of white. A police officer sat in a chair by the door. A young woman with dark hair pulled back in a bun. A doctor entered, a woman in her 50s with gray streaks in her auburn hair. "Mister." "Well, that is the question, is it not? What should I call you?" "Michael Brennan," I said. She pulled up a chair beside my bed. "I am Dr. Patricia Walsh, Chief Administrator here at Sacred Heart Hospital. You collapsed at the funeral. We brought you here and ran some tests, including fingerprints, which we are required to do for unidentified patients." She paused, and I saw trouble in her eyes. "Your fingerprints match a Michael Brennan from Boise, Idaho, a carpenter who died in a house fire in 2012. According to our database, you have been dead for 13 years. The room spun. "That is impossible." "I agree, it seems impossible. Yet that is what the system shows." Dr. Walsh glanced at the police officer. "This is Officer Campos. She has some questions for you." Officer Campos stood and approached my bed. She had kind eyes but a serious expression. "Sir, I need to ask you some questions. Can you tell me your social security number?" I recited it, the same number I had memorized since I was 16 years old. She typed it into a tablet computer. Her frown deepened. "This number belongs to Michael Brennan, deceased. Date of death, listed as August 14th, 2012. "I have never been to Idaho," I said. "I have lived in Virginia my entire life. Can you tell me your date of birth?" I gave it to her. She searched again. "I am not finding any record of a Michael Brennan born on that date who matches your physical description and current age." "This is insane," I said. "Call my company. Call Brennan Construction. My employees will verify who I am." Officer Campos made the call, putting it on speaker. After 3 rings, someone answered. Derek's voice came through the phone. "Brennan Construction, Derek Brennan speaking." "Mr. Brennan, this is Officer Campos with Richmond PD. I am here with a man who claims to be your father. Can you come down to Sacred Heart Hospital to provide identification?" There was a long pause. Then Derek's voice, heavy with emotion. "Officer, my father died 3 days ago. We just had his funeral this morning. The man you are with is not my father. He is someone who has been harassing our family. Someone who worked for my dad years ago and became obsessed with him. He disrupted the funeral and frightened my mother and me. Has he been evaluated psychiatrically? I am worried he might be dangerous." Officer Campos glanced at me, and I saw the shift in her expression, pity mixed with suspicion. She thanked Derek and hung up. "He is lying," I said desperately. "He tried to kill me. He poisoned me and staged the accident." Dr. Walsh and Officer Campos exchanged a look. "Mr. Sir," Dr. Walsh said gently, "we pulled your medical records from County Memorial. You were admitted 3 days ago with catastrophic injuries from a vehicle collision. Your son, Derek, made the difficult decision to withdraw life support after Dr. Sullivan declared you brain dead." She pulled up images on her tablet and showed me. A body on a morgue table, face covered by a sheet. The build and age looked similar to mine. Derek identified this body as his father. It was released to Preston Funeral Home and cremated yesterday. "Then whose body was that?" I demanded. "According to the records, it was you." I felt like I was going insane. This is a setup. Derek planned all of this. He switched records, paid people off. I am telling you, I am Michael Brennan. "Let me make another call," Officer Campos said. She dialed County Memorial and asked to speak with Emma Rodriguez, the nurse who saw me wake up. After a few minutes on hold, she got an answer. "Emma Rodriguez called in sick this morning and has not been answering her phone. They expect her back tomorrow." "She saw me," I said. "She saw me wake up. She knows I am alive." "We will try to reach her," Officer Campos said, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. Dr. Walsh asked me to wait while she ran additional tests. Hours passed. I lay in that bed, my mind racing through everything that had happened. The accident, Derek's voice telling them to let me die, waking up to find myself erased from existence. When Dr. Walsh returned, her face was grave. We ran a full toxicology screen. Your blood shows traces of digoxin at dangerous levels. What is that? A heart medication. It is used to treat cardiac conditions, but in high doses, it can cause cardiac arrest. Have you ever been prescribed digoxin? No. I have never had heart problems. Her eyes narrowed. Then how did it get into your system? The truth hit me like a freight train. Derek poisoned me. Dr. Walsh sat down slowly. If that is true, this is attempted murder. But we need proof. The nurse Emma saw me wake up. She can testify, if we can find her. Officer Campos received a phone call. She listened, her face tightening. When she hung up, she looked at me with something close to regret. A court order has just been issued. Derek Brennan, as next of kin to the deceased Michael Brennan, has filed papers to have you committed for psychiatric evaluation. A judge signed it an hour ago. I am legally required to transfer you to Riverside Psychiatric Facility immediately. No, I said. You cannot do this. I am sorry. I do not have a choice. 2 orderlies entered with a wheelchair. I tried to resist, but my body was too weak. They helped me into the chair and began wheeling me toward the door. As we passed through the hallway, I saw him. Derek stood near the elevator, arms crossed, watching me. Our eyes met. He gave me the slightest smile, almost imperceptible. Then he turned and walked away. Riverside Psychiatric Facility sat on the outskirts of Richmond, a sprawling complex of white buildings surrounded by manicured lawns. It looked more like a college campus than a mental institution, but the locked doors and barred windows told the real story. They put me in a white room with padded walls, a bed bolted to the floor, a small window with wire mesh glass. The door had no handle on the inside. A psychiatrist came to see me on the first day, Dr. Benjamin Foster, a thin man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and a clipboard. He sat across from me in a plastic chair and asked me questions in a tone that was professionally detached. I explained everything: the accident, Derek's betrayal, the forged will, the poisoning, the erased identity. I spoke for an hour, giving him every detail I could remember. Dr. Foster nodded and took notes. When I finished, he set down his pen and looked at me with clinical sympathy. Do you often believe people are conspiring against you? The question hit me like a slap. I am not paranoid. This actually happened. I understand that is how it feels to you. But consider the alternative explanation. You suffered severe head trauma in an accident. Brain injuries can cause what we call Capgras delusion, where a person believes their loved ones have been replaced by imposters. Combined with persecution complex and grandiose fantasies, you claim to be a wealthy businessman with millions of dollars, a successful company, property, but you have no identification, no proof, and even your own son does not recognize you. Is it possible that these memories are constructions your mind created to cope with trauma? No, I said firmly. I know who I am. I have seen this before. The mind is a powerful thing. With medication and therapy, we can help you accept reality and build a new life. They started me on medications that made my thoughts fuzzy. Pills twice a day that turned the world soft and distant. I tried to refuse, but they told me cooperation would help my evaluation go faster. On the 3rd night, I attempted to escape. I had learned lock-picking from my years in construction, installing doors and security systems. The lock on my room was cheap, institutional grade. I used a bent paper clip from the welcome packet they gave me. I made it to the stairwell before an orderly spotted me. Alarms blared through the building. Security guards tackled me in the lobby, 50 feet from freedom. They dragged me back to my room, and Dr. Foster added a note to my file about violent tendencies and escape risk. They doubled my medication. On day 3, during mandatory group therapy, I sat in a circle with 11 other patients. A woman who believed the government was reading her thoughts. A man convinced he was being followed by shadow people. A teenager who had tried to hurt herself. I said nothing, just stared at the floor, defeated. Across the circle, An elderly woman watched me. She had sharp blue eyes and a weathered face, silver hair cut short. She must have been 70 years old. When our eyes met, she gave the slightest nod. Later, in the common area where we were allowed to watch television and play cards under supervision, she sat down beside me. "You are the one from the news," she said quietly. "The man who interrupted his own funeral." I looked at her warily. "My name is Grace Templeton. I am not crazy either. My nephew committed me 8 months ago, so he could steal my pharmacy business. I have been fighting it ever since. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I believe you. But if you keep fighting the way you have been, they will never let you out. You need to pretend to accept their diagnosis. Play along. Act cooperative. Then plan carefully." Over the next few days, Grace became my lifeline. She had cultivated relationships with certain staff members, sneaking information and small favors. She learned things about the facility that I never could have discovered alone. She revealed that Derek had visited Dr. Foster privately and donated $50,000 to Riverside's expansion fund. Dr. Foster now had a personal financial interest in keeping me committed as long as possible. Grace also discovered something else. Emma Rodriguez, the nurse from County Memorial who saw me wake up, had not simply called in sick. She had disappeared. Her apartment was cleared out. Her bank account received a wire transfer of $20,000 the day after I woke up. Then she vanished. "Your son paid her to disappear," Grace said. "He is covering his tracks." Grace smuggled me a burner phone, slipping it into my pillowcase during a distraction she created in the common room. With it, I started making calls. I tried my lawyer, Thomas Henderson, who had my real will, but his secretary said Mr. Henderson retired last year and moved to Florida. His practice was closed. I called my construction company. A woman answered. "Brennan Construction. How may I direct your call?" "Joan?" I recognized her voice. Joan Patterson had been my secretary for 15 years. There was a pause. "Who is this?" "It is Michael." She started crying immediately. "Oh God, I thought you were dead. Everyone said you were dead." "Joan, I need you to listen carefully. Derek tried to kill me. He is stealing the company. You have to help me." "I know," she whispered. Harold knew too. He found out Derek was embezzling. He was going to the police. "Harold Peterson, my business partner for 22 years. Let me talk to Harold." Joan's voice broke. "Harold died 2 weeks ago. Heart attack at his desk. He was 52 years old and ran marathons. Michael, I think Derek killed him." The room spun. "What?" Harold found documents proving Derek stole almost $500,000. He told me he had proof that he was taking it to the authorities the next day. That morning, he collapsed at work. The paramedics said massive heart attack. The autopsy ruled it natural causes. "Where are the documents?" "Harold hid them. I have been looking, but I cannot find them. I think he kept copies at his house." "Joan, you need to get those documents. Derek cannot be allowed to." The common room door opened. An orderly looked directly at me. I shoved the phone under my shirt. "Medication time," the orderly said. I had to go. I whispered to Joan to find those documents and hung up. That night, as I lay in bed processing what I had learned, Derek had killed Harold, my best friend, my partner, a good man with a wife and 2 daughters in college, dead because he tried to protect me. Rage burned through the medication fog. I had to get out. I had to stop Derek. The lights in my room suddenly went out. I sat up, heart pounding. This was not normal. The hallway lights were still on, visible under my door. Just my room had gone dark. The door opened silently. A large figure entered, backlit by the hallway. Not hospital staff. Wrong build, wrong movement. The person wore a mask and moved toward my bed with deliberate purpose. In their hand, I saw a syringe. I rolled off the bed just as the needle plunged into my pillow where my neck had been seconds before. I shouted for help. The intruder lunged at me. I kicked out, connecting with their knee. They grunted and stumbled. Grace's voice screamed from the next room. "Help! Someone help!" Lights flooded on. The intruder ran for my window, which stood open. They climbed through and disappeared into the night. By the time security arrived, the person was gone. Dr. Foster came running. He looked at the open window, at me standing by my overturned bed, at Grace in the doorway. "What happened?" he demanded. "Someone tried to kill me," I said, pointing to the pillow. "They had a syringe." "Check the pillow." Security searched the room. Dr. Foster picked up my pillow, examining it carefully. "There is nothing here." It was right there. "They tried to inject me with something." "Mister." "Sir, there is no syringe." The window was locked. "You have been having episodes of paranoid delusion. This is consistent with your condition." I saw it. Grace heard me yell. Grace stepped forward. I heard shouting. I did not see anything else. Dr. Foster made notes on his tablet. "We will increase your medication to help with these hallucinations." After he left, Grace came to my room. "The syringe was there," she whispered. "I saw security palm it. They are working with your son. We need to get you out now." Grace formulated a plan. Her nephew was required by court order to visit her once a month. His visit was scheduled for 3 days from then. During the visit, Grace would fake a medical emergency, something dramatic enough to pull staff attention. In the chaos, I would slip out wearing visitors' clothes that Grace's friend on staff, an orderly named Paul who owed her favors, would provide. It worked better than we hoped. Grace clutched her chest and collapsed during the visit, gasping about heart pain. Alarms sounded. Staff rushed to her. Paul slipped me a jacket and baseball cap. I walked out the front door behind a group of actual visitors, head down, moving steadily but not running. Nobody stopped me. I walked for 2 miles before I felt safe enough to use the burner phone. I called a taxi and had it take me to Richmond Police Department. Detective Raymond Torres looked like he had seen everything in his 30 years on the force. Graying hair, deep lines around his eyes, the weary expression of someone who knew how dark the world could be. I sat across from him in an interview room and told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "That is quite a story. It is true. I believe you might think it is true, but I need evidence." I showed him the burner phone. Joan, my secretary, said Harold found documents proving Derek embezzled $500,000. She is trying to locate them. Torres called Joan. She confirmed everything I said. She told him about Harold's suspicions, his sudden death, the missing documents. Torres's expression darkened. "Did you report this to police?" "I was afraid," Joan admitted. "If Derek killed Harold and his own father, what would stop him from killing me?" Torres promised her protection. He said he would open an investigation, but he explained the problem clearly. "Even if we find the embezzlement documents, that is white-collar crime, hard to prove murder, and we still have the bigger issue of your identity. I cannot build a case around a man who legally does not exist. What do I need to prove who I am? DNA test would be definitive. You and Derek share biological DNA as father and son. We can compel him to provide a sample." Hope surged in my chest. "How long does that take?" "About a week to get results." Torres put in the order that afternoon, but before we could celebrate, his phone rang. He listened, his face hardening. When he hung up, he looked at me with something close to regret. "Derek's lawyer just filed an injunction. He has medical testimony from Dr. Sullivan stating your injuries from the accident were so severe you could not have survived. The man claiming to be you is likely someone who knew you, perhaps a disgruntled former employee who survived a similar accident and now, due to head trauma and psychological issues, believes he is you. Derek is requesting you be returned to psychiatric care immediately and barred from making any legal claims against the estate." "Can he do that?" "He already did. Judge Hamilton signed the order. She attended your funeral." Torres leaned forward. "I can give you 24 hours before the warrant goes active. Use it wisely. Find me real evidence." I left the police station and called Joan. She agreed to meet me at a diner on the edge of town. She arrived 20 minutes later, looking exhausted and frightened. "I found something," she said, sliding a folder across the table. "Harold's wife, Margaret, gave me access to his house. He kept a safe deposit box. The key was hidden in his workshop. These are copies of everything." I opened the folder. Inside were financial documents, bank statements, transfer records. Derek had systematically stolen from Brennan Construction for 3 years, creating fake vendor accounts, inflating invoices, siphoning money to offshore accounts. "This is enough to charge him," I said. "There is more." Margaret told me something strange. The week before Harold died, a woman came to their house asking questions about Derek. Margaret did not catch her name, but she was young, professional, asking about Derek's relationship with his father. Who was she? I do not know. But I have been watching Derek's house. His wife Allison has been acting strange. She left yesterday and met someone at a coffee shop. I followed her. It was a private investigator. My mind raced. Why would Allison hire a private investigator? I think she suspects something. I watched Derek's house from across the street that evening. It was my house, the home I built with my own hands in 1991. 3 bedrooms, wraparound porch, garden where Catherine grew tomatoes and roses. Seeing Derek and Allison living in it made my stomach turn. Allison left at 7 o'clock. I followed her car to a coffee shop downtown. She sat at a corner table with a woman in her 40s wearing jeans and a leather jacket. They spoke intensely, Allison gesturing with her hands, clearly upset. I moved closer, pretending to read a newspaper at the next table. "I found it in his bathroom cabinet," Allison was saying. "A bottle of digoxin. Derek does not have heart problems. I asked him about it and he said it was his father's old prescription. But why would he keep it?" The woman across from her took notes. "Did his father have heart problems?" "No. That is what scared me." I looked up digoxin poisoning. The symptoms match what Derek described about his father before the accident. Confusion, irregular heartbeat, weakness. "You think your husband poisoned his father?" Allison started crying. "I think Derek killed him for the inheritance, and I do not know what to do. If I go to the police, what if I am wrong? But what if I am right, and I do nothing?" The private investigator, whose business card I glimpsed when she set it on the table, was named Karen Blackwell. She told Allison to sit tight, that she would investigate quietly. I made a decision. I stood and walked to their table. Allison looked up. When she saw my face, she screamed. Then she stared, really stared, and her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, I am alive," I said simply. Allison burst into tears. Karen tensed, hand moving toward her jacket, probably reaching for a weapon. But I held up my hands. "I am not here to hurt anyone. Allison, I need your help." We talked for 2 hours in Karen's office. I told them everything. Allison confirmed that she had found the digoxin. She also revealed that Derek had become paranoid and controlling since the funeral. He kept guns in the house now. He disappeared for hours without explanation. He got angry when she asked questions. "I married him when I was 23, Allison said. "I thought he was ambitious and driven. I did not see the darkness until it was too late. I want out, but I am terrified of him." Karen Blackwell was former FBI, now a private investigator, specializing in corporate fraud and domestic cases. She said if I was really Michael Brennan, they could build a case. But it would take evidence. "We need Derek to confess," Karen said. "Get him on recording admitting to the poisoning, the staged accident, something concrete." "How?" Allison confronts him. "Where's a wire? I will be outside listening. If he threatens her or confesses, we go straight to Detective Torres." It was dangerous, but it was our best shot. We set it up for that night. Karen gave Allison a small recording device that looked like a pendant necklace. I would hide in the house, my own house, in case things went wrong. Karen would be in a van outside with police on standby. Allison was scared, but determined. He does not get to do this and walk away. We entered through the back door while Derek was out. I hid in the basement, in the workshop I built with my own hands, surrounded by tools I had not touched in a week that felt like a lifetime. Derek came home at 9. I heard his footsteps above me, heard Allison greeting him. Normal conversation about dinner and errands. Then Allison's voice changed. "Derek, I need to ask you something." "What?" "I found digoxin in your bathroom." "Why do you have that?" Silence. Long and heavy. "It was Dad's old medication. I have been meaning to throw it out. Your father did not have heart problems." "Allison, what is this about?" Did you poison your father? More silence. When Derek spoke again, his voice was cold. You stupid woman. You think you are clever? I heard movement. A chair scraping. Allison's sharp intake of breath. I recorded your meeting with that investigator, Derek said. I have been tracking your phone for weeks. I know everything. I know you hired her. I know you have been snooping. And I know my father is probably nearby, listening to this. My blood went cold. Derek, please. Where is he, Allison? Where is the old man hiding? I do not know what you are talking about. A slap. Allison cried out. I started for the stairs. Tell me where he is, or I swear to God. A gunshot. I burst through the basement door. Derek stood in the living room, gun in his hand. Allison running toward the front door. He had fired at the ceiling. A warning shot. Derek turned, saw me, and smiled. There you are. I charged him. 67 years old and battered from the accident. But rage gave me strength. I tackled him before he could aim the gun. We crashed into the coffee table, wood splintering beneath us. Derek was younger, stronger. He threw me off and scrambled to his feet. He raised the gun, pointing it at my chest. You should have stayed dead. A shot rang out. But Derek staggered, not me. Blood bloomed on his shoulder. He fell to his knees. Karen Blackwell stood in the doorway, her own weapon drawn. Drop it. Derek let the gun fall. He clutched his shoulder, gasping. Sirens wailed outside. Karen had called it in the moment things went wrong. Police burst through the door seconds later. Detective Torres was with them. They cuffed Derek and read him his rights. Attempted murder of his wife. Attempted murder of me. Assault with a deadly weapon. But as they led him away, Derek's lawyer, Gregory, was already on the phone, spinning the story. I could hear him through the open door. My client was defending his home against an intruder. The man broke into his house, attacked him. He acted in self-defense. Torres looked at me grimly. This is not over. Derek was arrested and held on $500,000 bail. Gregory posted it within 24 hours. Derek walked out of jail with his arm in a sling and a smile on his face. The next morning, Gregory held a press conference on the courthouse steps. He painted Derek as a grieving son victimized by a con artist, a mentally ill man who disrupted a funeral, broke into a home, and attacked Derek. The gun was legally registered. Derek feared for his life and his wife's life. He acted in self-defense against an intruder. We have psychiatric evaluations proving this man is delusional, Gregory told the cameras. He has been institutionalized. He believes he is someone he is not. This is a tragic situation, but my client is innocent of any wrongdoing. Public opinion split. Half the town believed I was really Michael Brennan. Half thought I was a clever con artist or a crazy person. The local news ran stories with my photo and the question, imposter or victim. Detective Torres continued investigating, but the identity problem persisted. The DNA test I had pinned my hopes on came back from the lab with bad news. The samples were contaminated during processing. They needed to retest. It would take another 2 weeks. Without legal proof of identity, I could not access my bank accounts, my business, my property. I was a ghost in my own life. Torres dug into Dr. Sullivan, the physician who declared me dead at County Memorial. Sullivan was defensive and hostile, insisting he followed standard medical protocol. I showed no brain activity, no pulse, no respiration. The decision to declare death was sound. What about the digoxin in my blood? I demanded. Many cardiac patients take digoxin, Sullivan said coldly. It proves nothing. Torres asked if he had been paid by Derek. Sullivan threatened to call his lawyer and ended the interview. Torres knew Sullivan was lying, but proving it was another matter. Karen Blackwell, the private investigator, started following the money. She discovered that Derek received a large loan 3 months before my accident, $500,000 from an offshore account. She traced the money backward through shell corporations and dummy accounts. The loan came from a holding company owned by Gregory Walsh, Derek's lawyer. They have been planning this for months, Karen told Torres and me in his office. Gregory financed the whole operation. He is not just Derek's lawyer. He is his partner. Torres got a warrant for Gregory's financial records. What they found was damning. Payments to Dr. Sullivan, $25,000. Payments to a records clerk at County Memorial, $10,000. A payment to a technician at the State Police Forensics Lab who had access to fingerprint databases, $30,000. Derek and Gregory had systematically bought off everyone they needed to fake my death and erase my identity. Can we charge them? I asked. We are getting there, Torres said. But we still need to solve one problem. If you are alive, whose body was cremated? Karen and I went to Preston Funeral Home. The director, a nervous man named Ellsworth, claimed Derek handled all arrangements. Derek selected a closed casket due to the severity of the injuries and requested immediate cremation for religious reasons. Did you see the body? Karen asked. Ellsworth shifted uncomfortably. Not exactly. Derek brought an urn with ashes. He said his father had already been cremated at another facility, and he just wanted a memorial service, so there was never a body. Technically, no. Just the urn Derek provided. Karen and I looked at each other. Whose ashes were they? Derek said they were his father's. I had no reason to doubt him. Torres got a court order to test the ashes, but the urn had been given to Derek after the service. Derek claimed he scattered the ashes in the lake where I used to fish, a sentimental gesture. Conveniently, no ashes remained to test. Torres made an educated guess. Harold Peterson, your business partner, was cremated after his heart attack. I am betting Derek somehow got Harold's ashes and used them. We decided to exhume Harold's body. His widow Margaret agreed immediately. The court approved. 3 days later, the medical examiner performed a second autopsy. They found traces of digoxin in Harold's tissue, the same poison that nearly killed me. Harold's death was not natural. He was murdered. The district attorney filed murder charges against Derek, first-degree murder of Harold Peterson, attempted murder of Michael Brennan, but Gregory was a legal magician. He argued that Derek was being framed, that I, the imposter, had killed Harold and was now trying to pin it on Derek to steal the Brennan estate. He produced handwriting experts who said my current signature did not match the signature on company documents. He brought facial recognition experts who claimed my bone structure was close but not identical to Michael Brennan's photos, suggesting possible plastic surgery. He brought psychiatrists who testified that head trauma can create elaborate false memories. The trial began 2 weeks later. The courthouse was packed. Media vans lined the street outside. It became a spectacle, a real-life mystery that captivated the region. The prosecution called witnesses. Joan testified that Derek had been embezzling. Karen testified about the money trail. Detective Torres testified about the digoxin poisoning. Former employees testified that I knew intimate details about Brennan construction that only the real Michael would know. The defense countered with Dr. Foster's psychiatric evaluation, with Dr. Sullivan's testimony that I died and was properly declared deceased, with the contaminated DNA test results that proved nothing. The jury looked confused, half convinced, half doubtful. Then the prosecution called Allison to testify. She took the stand, sworn in under oath, and I felt hope surge. She was our star witness. She found the digoxin. She heard Derek threaten me. She saw him pull a gun. The prosecutor asked her to describe the night Derek shot at her. Allison looked directly at me. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying for hours. Then she said the words that destroyed everything. I made a mistake. I misunderstood what happened that night. The courtroom went silent. Derek did not threaten me. He was protecting me from an intruder. This man, she pointed at me, broke into our home. Derek thought he had a weapon. He fired a warning shot to scare him away. I was confused and frightened. The private investigator manipulated me into thinking Derek was dangerous. The prosecutor looked stunned. But you told Detective Torres that Derek confessed to poisoning his father. I was wrong. I misheard. The digoxin in our house was from Derek's late father's prescriptions. Everything else was my imagination, fueled by stress and manipulation. Are you changing your testimony? I am telling the truth. My husband is innocent. I love him. And I believe this man is not who he claims to be. The prosecutor tried to salvage it, but Allison would not budge. She recanted everything. The confession recording was dismissed as coerced. Her testimony fell apart. After court adjourned, Karen found Allison in the courthouse bathroom. I waited outside while Karen went in. Through the door, I heard Allison sobbing. Karen came out 5 minutes later, her face grim. Derek threatened her sister, said if Allison testified against him, her sister would have an accident. Allison's sister lives alone in North Carolina. Derek knows exactly where. Allison left the courthouse with her eyes down. I saw Derek waiting for her by his car. He put his arm around her shoulders, gentle and loving for the cameras. She flinched at his touch. Without Allison's testimony, the prosecution's case weakened. The jury would decide based on circumstantial evidence. And in America, circumstantial evidence often is not enough. Torres pulled me aside that evening. We are going to lose. Unless we find something new, Derek is going to walk. I was running out of time, running out of options, and running out of money. Karen's investigative fees had drained what little cash I had borrowed. Without access to my accounts, I was surviving on the charity of friends who believed me and the grudging help of Torres, who let me sleep on his office couch when I had nowhere else to go. My construction company was bleeding money under Derek's mismanagement. Employees were being laid off. Contracts were not being fulfilled. My life's work was being destroyed, and I was powerless to stop it. Then Grace called. She had finally been released from Riverside after her nephew's embezzlement was exposed through unrelated charges. She was free, her mind sharp, her determination fierce. "I have an idea," she said. "Stop trying to prove you are Michael Brennan. Instead, prove Derek's crimes independently. If he is convicted of murdering Harold and attempting to murder you, whoever you are, the inheritance becomes invalid under Slayer statute. Criminals cannot profit from their crimes." It was brilliant. We did not need to prove my identity. We just needed to prove Derek's guilt. Grace used her pharmaceutical connections to investigate Dr. Sullivan further. She discovered he had a severe gambling problem. He owed money to loan sharks, dangerous people. 3 months before my accident, Sullivan's debts were suddenly paid off. $30,000 cleared overnight. Karen tracked the payment. It came from Gregory's offshore account. They set up a sting. Grace and Karen approached Sullivan privately, posing as representatives of people willing to clear his new gambling debts, which had mounted again, in exchange for testimony. Sullivan, desperate, agreed to meet at a restaurant. They recorded everything. "Derek paid me to declare his father dead," Sullivan admitted, his voice shaking. The old man was still alive, still had brain activity, but Derek said to pull the plug anyway. Said his father wanted to die, that it was a mercy. He gave me $30,000. I needed the money. I did it. Karen asked about the death certificate. I falsified it. Time of death, cause of death, all of it. Then Derek had the body moved before anyone could verify. I thought it was just insurance fraud or something. I did not know he was trying to kill his own father. They had him, but before they could leave, Sullivan realized he had been recorded. His face went white. He grabbed for Karen's phone, but she pulled away. Sullivan called someone as soon as they left. Karen's team, monitoring his phone, heard him call Derek. "They know," Sullivan said. "They recorded me. I am sorry, but they know everything." Derek's response was cold. "You are a loose end, Raymond. I do not leave loose ends." Sullivan hung up, terrified. Karen offered him police protection if he testified. Sullivan agreed, but Derek moved faster than we anticipated. That night, I was staying at a cheap motel outside Richmond, registered under a fake name Karen provided. I fell asleep around midnight, exhausted from the day's tension. I woke to smoke. Thick, black smoke filled the room. The fire alarm was blaring. I rolled out of bed, disoriented, and saw flames licking up the walls near the door. The motel was burning. I crawled toward the window, staying low where the air was clearer. My lungs burned. I could hear screaming from other rooms, people trying to escape. I reached the window and tried to open it. Stuck. The old latch was painted shut. I grabbed the desk chair and smashed it through the glass. Cold night air rushed in. I was climbing through when the door to my room burst open. Not firefighters. 2 men in dark clothes, faces covered. They moved through the smoke like they expected it. One of them grabbed my leg and yanked me back inside. I kicked, connecting with his face. He grunted and loosened his grip. I scrambled through the window, cutting my hands on broken glass, and fell 6 feet to the ground outside. The 2 men climbed through after me. In the chaos of the burning motel, with fire trucks arriving and people running everywhere, nobody noticed them chasing me into the parking lot. One pulled a gun, silencer attached. Professional. I ran between cars, using them as cover. A bullet pinged off a side mirror. Another shattered a windshield. They herded me toward a van parked at the edge of the lot. Its side door slid open. A 3rd man waited inside. I was trapped. Burning motel behind me, armed men in front, van to my right. I turned to run left, and someone tackled me from behind. My head hit the pavement hard. Stars exploded across my vision. They dragged me to the van and threw me inside. Someone hit me with something hard. My world went black. When I woke, I was tied to a chair in an empty warehouse. My head throbbed. Blood ran down the side of my face from a gash above my eye. Derek stood in front of me. No mask, no pretense. Just my son, looking at me with cold hatred. "You should have stayed in the hospital," he said. "I paid good money to make sure you would never wake up. But you did. You just kept not dying. Why?" My voice was hoarse from smoke inhalation. "Why did you do this?" "Why?" Derek laughed bitterly. "Because you gave everything away. To charity, to your employees, to strangers. You built a $4 million company, and you were going to leave me scraps, $200,000, like I was some employee who did a good job. You stole from me. You stole from our clients. I gave you a second chance, and you threw it away. I took what should have been mine. You always cared more about everyone else. Your precious employees, your charity cases. When Mom died, you did not even grieve. You just worked more, gave away more, ignored me completely. That is not true." "It is true," Derek shouted. "I was your son, and you treated me like a disappointment. So I decided to take what you would not give. Harold figured it out, so he had to go. The digoxin worked beautifully on him. Then I used it on you. Slipped it into your coffee every morning for a week. Enough to weaken your heart, make you confused. Then I arranged the accident. Paid a truck driver $10,000 to sideswipe you at exactly the right spot on the highway. You planned everything, every detail. The forged will, the paid-off doctor, the cremated ashes. Those were Harold's, by the way. The fingerprint switch. All of it. And it worked perfectly. I was Michael Brennan. I had the company, the money, the house, everything. But I survived. You should not have. That nurse, Emma, was not supposed to be there. She saw you wake up, panicked, and reported it before I could stop her. So I paid her to disappear. Then I had you committed. When that did not hold you, I tried to kill you at the psychiatric facility. Then I tried the fire, but you keep not dying." Derek pulled out a gun, a different one from before, larger. "So now I will do it myself. I will shoot you, dissolve your body in acid, and end this. No body, no crime, no more problems. They will know it was you. Will they? Without a body, without proof. It is just circumstantial. Gregory will spin it. You disappeared, ran off. Who knows? In a year, everyone will forget about you." I looked my son in the eye. "Why? I gave you everything. I loved you." Derek's face twisted with something ugly. "You loved your image of me, the son you wanted me to be. You never saw me. After Mom died, you checked out. You built houses for poor people and ignored your own son. I felt abandoned. So I started taking money as revenge. When Harold found out, I realized I could take everything. And you know what? I enjoyed planning it. I enjoyed watching you die. The only regret I have is that you survived long enough to make this difficult." He raised the gun, pointing it at my head. "Goodbye, Dad." A gunshot rang out. Derek fell, blood blooming from his thigh. He screamed and collapsed. The warehouse doors burst open. Detective Torres and a SWAT team rushed in, weapons drawn. Karen was with them, and Grace. Torres cut the ropes binding me while his team secured Derek. "How did you find me?" I gasped. "Karen's team tracked Derek after the Sullivan call," Torres said. "They have been following his hired muscle all day. When they grabbed you from the motel, We followed. We heard everything. He confessed to it all. Derek was screaming threats, clutching his leg. Torres read him his rights while medics treated his wound. But even handcuffed and bleeding, Derek was not done. Gregory appeared within the hour with a team of lawyers. He argued the arrest was illegal, that Derek had been entrapped, that the confession was coerced. My client was defending himself against kidnappers, Gregory insisted. This man, he pointed at me, hired criminals to torture a confession out of him. Anything Derek said was under duress and inadmissible. Torres looked like he wanted to punch Gregory. But then something unexpected happened. A woman approached Torres, middle-aged, nervous, wearing scrubs. Emma Rodriguez, the nurse from County Memorial. I saw the news, she said. I could not stay quiet anymore. She had been hiding in Texas, living under an assumed name, terrified of Derek. But seeing the trial, seeing me nearly die repeatedly, she could not run anymore. Emma had recorded a video on her phone the morning I woke up in the hospital. She filmed me opening my eyes, speaking, moving. Proof that I was alive. Proof that she reported it to her supervisor. Proof that her supervisor told her to keep quiet. She also had text messages, Dr. Sullivan ordering her to disappear, offering her $20,000 to stay silent. With Emma's testimony and video, combined with Sullivan's recorded confession and Derek's warehouse admission, the case became airtight. The DNA test finally came back. It confirmed I was Derek's biological father. I was Michael Brennan. My identity was restored. The trial lasted 3 weeks. With all the evidence compiled, Gregory's legal tricks could not save Derek. Emma's video played for the jury, showing me clearly alive when I was supposed to be dead. Sullivan testified, granted immunity in exchange for his full cooperation. Karen presented the financial trail, showing Gregory and Derek's conspiracy. The recording from the warehouse played Derek's full confession. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Derek was found guilty on all counts. First-degree murder of Harold Peterson, attempted murder of Michael Brennan, fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement, insurance fraud, a dozen other charges. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Gregory was disbarred and charged as an accessory. He would face his own trial later, but his legal career was over. Dr. Sullivan lost his medical license and received 5 years in prison for his role in the conspiracy. Derek was led away in handcuffs. As he passed me in the courtroom, our eyes met. He looked smaller somehow, defeated and old despite being only 34. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then closed it and looked away. With Derek's conviction, the conspiracy was fully exposed. Federal investigators corrected my records. My fingerprints were restored in the database. My social security number was reinstated. I legally existed again. I reclaimed my business, my home, and my bank accounts. The forged will was invalidated by the court. My original will, the one stored with my former lawyer Thomas Henderson, was located and reinstated. Allison came to see me a week after the verdict. She had filed for divorce the day Derek was sentenced. She looked exhausted but relieved. "I am sorry," she said. "He threatened my sister. I did not know what else to do. I understand. You were protecting family. He was not always like that. Or maybe he was, and I did not see it. I was 23 when we married, and I thought his ambition was attractive. I did not see the darkness underneath until it was too late. You are free now. So are you." I helped Allison find a job at a non-profit organization that helped domestic violence survivors. She started rebuilding her life, and I made sure her sister in North Carolina had security and support. Grace became one of my closest friends. 2 survivors who understood what it meant to be betrayed by family and fight back. I used my resources to help her sue her nephew and reclaim her pharmacy business. She won her case and reopened her pharmacy 6 months later. We had dinner together every Tuesday. I returned to Brennan Construction to find it in shambles. Derek had laid off half the workforce and alienated most of our clients. The company was hemorrhaging money, but I was determined to rebuild. I discovered Derek had embezzled $1.2 million total over 3 years. The money was gone, spent or hidden in accounts we might never find. I absorbed the loss personally rather than making the company or the remaining employees suffer. I rehired everyone Derek fired. I called every client and personally apologized, offering to make things right. Some came back, some did not. I understood. Joan, my loyal secretary who risked everything to help me, became assistant director of operations. I gave her a 20% raise and a profit-sharing stake in the company. I established the Harold Peterson Memorial Fund, a scholarship for the children of construction workers. Harold's daughters would be the first recipients. His widow Margaret joined the board. Harold had died trying to protect me, and I would make sure his sacrifice meant something. I restructured my will again, this time with multiple lawyers verifying every word. I established an employee profit-sharing program, giving 20% of company ownership to the workers who had stood by me. The rest would go to charity when I died, with generous provisions for Joan and other key employees who had become like family. My employees were family. They had stood by me when I had nothing, when I was a ghost without a name. I would stand by them. I visited Derek in prison once, 6 months after his sentencing. He had lost weight, his face gaunt, his eyes empty. The cocky arrogance was gone. What remained was a broken man facing the rest of his life in a cell. We sat across from each other in the visiting room, separated by plexiglass. "Why did you come?" Derek asked. "To tell you that I forgive you." He looked up, surprised. "I forgive you for everything you did. The poisoning, the attempted murders, destroying the business, killing Harold. All of it." Derek started crying. Real tears, not the crocodile tears he shed at my funeral. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry. I destroyed everything. My life, your life, Harold's life. For what? Money I will never spend. A company I ran into the ground. I hate myself." "Good," I said, not unkindly. "Hating what you did is the first step toward becoming someone better. There is no better for me. I will die in here. Then die as a better man than you are today. Forgiveness does not erase consequences. You must live with what you have done. But you can choose who you become moving forward." Derek put his head in his hands. "I wish I could take it back." "So do I." I left the prison and never returned. Derek sent me letters over the following months, long apologies and attempts at explanation. I read them but did not respond. Forgiveness did not require ongoing relationship. It just meant I would not carry the poison of hatred in my heart. My brush with death changed me in ways I did not expect. I had spent 10 years after Catherine's death burying myself in work, avoiding grief by staying busy. I thought I was honoring her memory by building houses and helping people, but I was really running from pain. Derek was right about one thing. I had emotionally checked out after Catherine died. I threw myself into work and philanthropy while my own son felt abandoned. I did not cause Derek's choices, but I contributed to his pain. That was a hard truth to accept. I could not change the past, but I could change how I spent my remaining years. I scaled back my work hours at Brennan Construction, promoting Joan to Chief Operating Officer and trusting her to run day-to-day operations. I was still involved, but not consumed. I started volunteering at Grace's Pharmacy, teaching basic construction skills to young people who could not afford trade school. I mentored young men who lacked father figures, trying to give them what I failed to give Derek. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected. I traveled to places Catherine and I always talked about visiting but never made time for. I read books. I went fishing. I lived. One afternoon, I stood at Harold's grave in Green Hills Cemetery. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. I placed fresh flowers on his headstone. "Thank you, old friend," I said quietly. "You died trying to protect me and expose the truth. Your sacrifice was not in vain. The company is rebuilding. Your daughters are going to college on full scholarships. Margaret is doing okay, and Derek is in prison where he belongs." The wind rustled through the trees. I like to think Harold heard me. I walked back to my truck, the same Ford F-150 I had driven for 20 years. It needed a new transmission and the paint was fading, but it was mine, real and solid and familiar. I climbed into the driver's seat and looked at myself in the rearview mirror. 67 years old, gray hair, lines around my eyes, a scar on my forehead from the accident that nearly killed me. but alive. Undeniably, completely alive. I started the engine and drove home. To the house I built with my own hands. To the life I reclaimed through stubbornness and the help of people who believed me. To the future I earned by refusing to let anyone steal my identity, my dignity, or my truth. The lesson I learned through all of this is simple but profound. Betrayal comes from those closest to us because they have the most access to our trust. The same intimacy that enables profound love also enables profound betrayal. But you cannot let the fear of betrayal close your heart. Love deeply, trust wisely, but stay vigilant. Build your life on relationships, not possessions. Wealth means nothing if you die unloved. I learned that the hard way. I had millions of dollars and almost lost everything because I neglected the relationships that mattered most. And if you do face betrayal, if someone tries to steal everything from you, fight back. Never surrender. Never let anyone take your name, your life, or your truth. The pain of betrayal is temporary. The satisfaction of justice is forever. I am Michael Brennan. I built a construction company from nothing. I survived my own funeral. I came back from the dead and reclaimed my life. And I am still here, still building, still living. That is my story. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever felt invisible in your own life? Have you ever had to fight to prove who you really are? What would you do if someone tried to erase your entire existence? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, if it made you think about trust and family and the value of fighting for your truth, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories like this one. Real accounts of ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who might be fighting their own battle to be seen and heard. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that no matter how dark things get, no matter how impossible the situation seems, you have the power to fight back and reclaim your life.